Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to episode 3 of the Hardcore Ironman series for Forgiven Nomad. On this one, I'm going to be doing an in-depth guide as to how to properly solo the Wintertodt game. The reason that you're going to want to solo the Wintertodt rather than going into the official Wintertodt worlds is you're going to get more construction experience, more fletching experience, a little bit of farming, herb lore, and agility experience, although those three are negligible. You're going to get a slower fire making experience because in the official world you're going to finish the games a lot faster, and whenever you finish a game you get whatever your level is times 100. So right now I'm level 95 fire making, so whenever a game ends I would get 9500 or 9500 fire making experience. The experience here does go up based on your level. This is why we got some pre-levels before we came here. Why we like boosted up our construction level. Got a little bit of we didn't really do wood cutting, but we did get our fletching up to about 15. I'm not going to show what my levels are right now. I'm going to try and save that to the next one where I show what kind of levels you can expect going for 1 to 99 in a solo world. If you do want to get the fastest fire making experience, you would want to use the official Wintertodt worlds, which is going to be World 307 for the US, Worlds 309 for the UK, 311 for Germany, and 389 for Australia. Aside from that, like I said, the reason that you're going to want to solo is you get more drops per hour, more construction experience, more woodcutting experience, more fletching experience, and a negligible amount of agility, farming, and herb lore experience, which I'll show you guys here in a second. A couple things that you're going to want to note before you get into a game. Number one is going to be your inventory. You need at least 5 pieces of warm clothing. Right here I'm wearing the Santa mask, the Santa jacket, Santa pantaloons, Santa boots, and Santa gloves. I'm not sure if the gloves actually count towards the warm weather or the warm gear, but I'm also wearing the Clue Hunter cloak to make up for that spot. Whenever I was not using the cloak and whenever I was using the graceful cape, I noticed that I was actually taking more damage than I should, and I will get into the damage distribution later. The other thing that you're going to want is an axe. I've heard that there's not actually a great deal of difference between a steel axe and a rune axe, so I just came with the steel axe since with my attack level I can actually hold it. Your inventory, you're going to want to make sure that you have a hammer for repairing the braziers. You're not really going to need one if you do the official Wintertodt world. A tinder box if you don't have a broom or torch in order to relight the braziers, and a knife for cutting kindling. At 10 health, because you take damage here based on your overall hit points level. I believe it's 10, 20, or 30% of your total health. You'll take 10%, as long as you're wearing the 5 warm pieces of clothing, you'll take 10% in random hits and snow flurries, and 20% from the brazier blowing up. If you're wearing no pieces of Wintertodt or warm weather clothes, then or cold weather clothes, warm clothes, then you'll actually take 30% of damage at random, as well as with the winter falls, while still maintaining 20% damage on a brazier exploding. So at level 10, this is negligible because you're getting hit 1s and 2s if you're wearing 5 sets, or you're wearing getting hit 3s and 2s. But realistically, don't really come here unless you have the warm clothing. At level 10, you can fend it off with cake. If you're a higher level of hit points, generally you're going to want to bring Serratum and Brews. So I always recommend people do Wintertodt at the very beginning of their account in order to minimize the amount of food or the tier of food that you have to eat. Essentially here, at level 10 health, a cake is going to act like a Serratum and Brew for a high level character. If you come into a game, what you're going to look for is you want 4 symbols. You want the Wintertodt energy to be at 100%, and you want 4 symbols to look like this one right here without the fire. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to jump into another world. We're not going to try and crash this guy. Realistically, if you have the ability to not crash somebody, which you always do, just don't crash them. So this one is another busted world. We're not looking for this. And I'm going to go over what these symbols here mean later and what the point distribution is. Remember, north is going to be the opposite side from where you've started. This right here, we have Wintertodt energy at 100%, and we have 4 symbols of just the logs with no fire, no down pyromancers, and no broken braziers. One of the first things I like to do is go over here and take 5 concoctions from the concoction crate. This is going to be used to heal up the pyromancer, which I'll talk about here in a little. I always start here, and I try and start the 2 southern braziers first in order to maximize, because essentially there's three parts of the game. There's starting the game, gaining points, and then ending the game. Starting the game is going to be the most dangerous for your character because the Wintertodt is at the most amount of health, so his interest is not in self-preservation, such as turning off the braziers and attacking the pyromancers. His interest, realistically, his or hers, their interest is in attacking the player, doing damage to the player. And as you can see, I've already taken a pretty significant amount of damage here. I've taken 3 hits. So once you've run around and you've lit all 4 braziers, I like to come over here. We picked 5 of the sprouting roots, and we're going to be using these to mix with. Anytime you take damage here, you do have to click on the roots to get them to continue going. You can mix the potions while you move in order to maximize efficiency. And then there's going to be a couple different places that you want to stand during the game. Right here is one, beside the root, so where my character is moving now. And then basically on the opposite side over here, and then in the same area on the southern ones. The reason for this is because the game does not have a 3x3. If you're standing here, the game does not have a 3x3 square where it can actually put the attack that you can either call it the 3x3 attack or the snow flurry attack. There's really no actual name for it, but I'll show you guys what I'm talking about later. Anytime I get down to 3 health, I like to make sure I eat a cake. Actually, I got down to 2 health right there. But I like to make sure I eat a cake whenever I'm down at 3 if I'm away from the brazier. And if I'm at the brazier, I really don't like my health getting down to below 4. At 10 health with 5 pieces of warm clothing, the most damage that you can take in a single game tick is going to be 4 damage. And you have to get rather unlucky for that to happen because you have to have the brazier blow up doing 2 damage, the random attack hit you doing 1 damage, and the snow flurry land on you at the same time, again doing 1 damage. This did actually happen to me, and that's what happened in my last hardcore. This is why it's actually taken me so long to get this video out, is because on my last hardcore, I actually got 40 million fire making experience here, just really going for the pet. And didn't get it and ended up losing the hardcore. So, you know, I kind of got beaten down by that. You want to get Wintertodt out of the way, and it's such a bar to your account because you can't, or you don't want to gain a hit points level. We're still at the beginning part of the game, what I would call the setting up or the starting part of the game. And generally what we're going to do, the Wintertodt is below 50% health right now, or 50% energy. So this is kind of whenever he stops attacking you as much and starts to focus a little bit more on self-preservation. But you do still want to get him down. Where I'm comfortable, I try and keep him between around 15 to 20% and just kind of maintain him at that level. The reason that you're going to want to fletch here, you'll see this asked a lot in the official Wintertodt worlds. You'll see people ask, why fletch? And realistically, the reason for that is because there's no real reason not to. You do get more points. You get a little bit more fire making experience, although realistically, in the overall scheme of things, fletching will slow down the amount of supply crates that you get per game. But I think it slows down the maximum amount of supply crates, but from my experience, it does actually put you more towards a second crate in the official Wintertodt world. In the official Wintertodt world, so whenever you're playing the game, you need to get at least 500 points. The way that you get points is lighting the brazier, which is going to give you fire making experience and 25 points. Feeding the brazier just the Bruma root itself, which will give you the lowest amount of fire making experience and 10 points. Feeding the brazier kindling, which will give you a step up from the roots as far as fire making experience is concerned, as well as 25 points. Healing the pyromancer, which is going to be 30 points, and then fixing the brazier, which is going to be 25 points. Fixing the brazier will give you construction experience. Healing the pyromancer doesn't really do anything for you as far as experience goes, but it does give you the most amount of points. So just going back over it, the lowest amount of points is feeding it roots, which gives you 10. Repairing the brazier, lighting the brazier, feeding the brazier kindling will all give you 25 points. Healing the pyromancer will give you 30 points. You need to get at least 500 points per game in order to receive a supply crate. At 500 points, you're guaranteed 1 drop, and then at 1,000, every 500 points above that is a guaranteed 1 more drop. So at 500 points, you get 1 drop. At 1,000 points, you get 2 drops. 750 points gives you 1 drop and a 50% chance to get another drop. With this being said, 13,500 points is the most amount of points that you want to go for into a game, which you'll only get in a solo game. And the reason for this is because at 13,500 points, you're guaranteed 28 drops, and the max amount of drops that you can get from 1 supply crate is 28. In a solo world, I generally find that this takes between 45 to 55 minutes to complete. Actions such as cutting kindling and feeding the brazier can be interrupted by taking damage. You will not have your actions interrupted whenever you're cutting the roots, but cutting kindling, whenever you're chopping the roots, I should say. Whenever you're cutting kindling, your action will be interrupted by damage, and whenever you're feeding the brazier, you will be interrupted by damage. It is also important to note, while you're chopping the roots, you can actually interact with your inventory, moving stuff around, and it won't stop you from cutting the roots. Whenever you're running between braziers, you want to make sure that you're maximizing your efficiency by using that time to cut the kindling. And like I said, I like to try and make sure that I have at least 2 braziers lit until the Wintertodt is below 20% health. The time between 2 braziers that are, quote, touching, such as 2 on the east side, 2 on the west side, or 2 on the south side, has enough time for you to cut 2 logs. The reason that it's not 2 on the north side is because in between you have the stepping stones that you have to jump over, the pillars that you have to jump over, and you can't actually cut the roots or kindle the roots while you're jumping that. Going over what the symbols mean up here right now is a really good example. So this right here is going to be a non-lit brazier. It's just going to be the stack of the 2 logs essentially. The red magic hat is going to indicate that the pyromancer there is injured. The lit brazier, or the 2 logs with the fire, does indicate a burning brazier, a lit brazier. And then the crossed hammer and chisel is going to indicate a broken brazier. It's important to note with your pyromancer that he's always going to be able to take 2 hits of damage, no more, no less, before he is floored, and you have to heal him. Generally speaking, I can get through a game of this eating only 2 pieces of cake. In this one, I have actually taken a little bit more damage than that. So I went ahead and ate 1 full cake. At 10 hit points total, you can generally get away with coming in here with 2 cakes, and you'll never really need more than that unless you're not really paying attention. Things that will require you to eat more cakes is generally going to be if the brazier blows up in your face. That's going to be the most damaging attack that you have to worry about. Again, as long as you have 5 pieces of warm clothes. It is important to note that you do want to keep your pyromancer up as much as possible, even if the brazier is not lit, because it gives him the opportunity to take more damage. Like right here, whenever you have the 3x3 attack over the brazier, he's going to take right there 10 damage. Your pyromancer has a total of 14 health, and as stated earlier, it's always going to take 2 attacks to drop him. It can either be a 10 and a 4, a 13 and a 1. It's always going to be 2 attacks that equal up to 14, although the lowest primary attack that I've ever seen was a 6. So the pyromancer then got hit a 6 and an 8. I've never seen a 6 and a 6. Going with my original hardcore having 40 million fire making experience, and this character right now having almost 9 million. So in rounding it up, we'll say 50 million fire making experience. And with this character, it's all been in solo worlds. With my last character, it was primarily in the actual Wintertodt, the official Wintertodt worlds, with a little bit in the solo worlds. But in all that time, I've never seen a pyromancer take more than 2 hits. So I'm confident in saying that your pyromancer will always get downed after 2 hits. Going over the attacks, you will see, and I'll show these whenever they're coming up, a few different attacks that you're looking for in the game. One of them will be targeted at you. It's the snow flurry attack that I mentioned earlier. The other one is going to be on the pyromancer, which is the one that he just got hit by. I'll try and catch it next time. And then the other 2 attacks are going to be focused towards the brazier, and I'm sure we'll see them in this attack. Right there, we just took a random attack hit, which is always going to be 1 or 10% of your overall health. Right here, you can barely see this one. I can probably get a better example of that from a different angle maybe. But you'll see that right there is going to be a 3x3 attack above the brazier. This right here is going to be a single attack above the pyromancer. The 3x3 attack above the brazier is always going to indicate that the brazier is about to get broken. You want to make sure that you have at least 1 square between you and the brazier before it blows up in order to avoid the damage. The attack that we just saw right there, it's a single beam of snow above the brazier, indicates that the brazier is just going to be put out. And if we give it the black background, we can probably see it better. It will happen again here momentarily. There's the 3x3 attack, so we back up. The pyromancer will take damage from that. We repair it. We light, and we go back to cutting. Whenever the Wintertodt is at 20% energy, I like to make sure that I always have the brazier lit. And then if he's around 15 or less, then I'll actually leave the brazier unlit while I fletch the kindling. Like I said, 2 attacks on the pyromancer, and he's downed. We do want to make sure that the pyromancer gets downed as frequently as possible, so we may do some underhanded tactics that I'll kind of show off later in order to ensure that he takes as much damage as possible. The more times that he gets down, the more times that we get to heal him, and the more points that we get. Alrighty. Unfortunately, that round we did not get a single attack on it that would put out like a single Wintertodt attacking the brazier without breaking the brazier. So hopefully that'll happen while we're over here cutting the logs or the roots. This attack right here is going to be just a single beam of snow right on top of the brazier, and that's going to indicate that the brazier is going to go out without being broken. So you actually don't need to run away from that one. It's the same attack that you'll see above the pyromancer whenever he's about to take damage from a focus attack. If you're standing where I'm standing, you reduce the time needed to get from the brazier to the roots by what I would consider a rather negligible amount of time. It's not really going to save you a lot of game ticks, unless you do Wintertodt for way too long a period of time. And standing here does open you up to the ability of getting the 3x3 Wintertodt attack on you. It's important to note that in a solo world, the 3x3 Wintertodt attack is always going to focus you. It never hits a random square. It always focuses on one player. The player will be the center of the attack, and essentially, if you've ever played the game Minesweeper, then any square that is touching that square is also going to take damage, and they're going to take full damage from it. So if you're standing directly in the middle of a square, let's back up from this. Say you're standing here, you will take damage, and then everything around you will take damage from every square that's touching you, whether it's diagonal, vertical, or horizontal. It is important to note that during the last iteration of us feeding the brazier, it stayed lit for most of the time, and actually the pyromancer did a significant chunk of damage to the Wintertodt. It went from around 20 to around 10 or 11% energy. We want to be careful with that because in my bank right now I have, I want to say 47 crates, 47 or 46 crates of Wintertodt. 47 supply crates, and those are going to be mostly 28 crates. Some of those, like 2 or 3, are going to be supply crates that only have 27 rewards in them. And the reason for that is because maybe I got a little bit too over eager and tried to end the game a little bit early. And maybe sometimes the Wintertodt just wouldn't put out the Brazier or wouldn't attack the Pyromancer. There are no crates in my bank that have 26 items in them, and there are no crates in the bank that have 25 or less. So there's no crates in my bank that have 26 or less, and there's very, very few crates in my bank that have less than 28. It's important to note that right here we see that he's already taken 1 hit, and if we see another single attack go over him, you do have enough time where I'm standing now to get to the Brazier and light it if you can see that attack go off above his head. I'll try and bait that out by cutting the logs over here and showing you guys what I mean. So right there, he's being attacked. We go over here, and we have enough time to light the Brazier, and then we can start feeding it. The reason that we would want to do this is we kind of want the Wintertodt to... I didn't really mean to light it right there. But the reason that we would want to do that is we want to bait out the Wintertodt doing a 3x3 attack and break in the Brazier, and having that attack happen while the Pyromancer's down. We would back up to here and revive the Pyromancer to ensure that the Pyromancer took the damage from the exploding Brazier. The other thing to note, and I'll show this whenever I light the Brazier, I believe this is his first time getting hit, and that's going to be his second time. So we would go ahead and light that, and then that's going to be his third. So if we revive him there, we'll see that he takes that damage. It's certain things like that that you want to make sure that you're kind of trying to do to ensure that he takes the most amount of damage possible. Again, just to maximize the number of points that you get. Whenever you have 1 log left in your inventory, you can actually light the Brazier and then click on the log and click on the knife in your inventory, and you'll get, it doesn't really, they don't interfere. If you click on the Brazier, you can immediately click on the log and click on the knife in your inventory without interrupting the lighting of the Brazier. Just a way to, again, maximize your points. You want to finish up a game as quickly as possible. The fastest time that I've had at Wintertodt to complete the game with 13,500 points is somewhere around 42 minutes. But even that was like really, that's, I doubt, the very best time that you can get. You can probably cut off 5, 6, or 7 minutes. But for me, that was pretty sweaty trying to get that. That was me challenging myself to getting the lowest time possible. As I said, on average, we're looking at a 45 to 50 5-minute game. With the Wintertodt being at 12% energy, I really don't want to light the Brazier and keep it lit, because maybe our Pyromancer will get overzealous, maybe the Wintertodt will be a little lazy and won't attack the Pyromancer, and he would actually go ahead and finish off the Wintertodt. So the reason that we came over here and lit it right now, whenever I just said that we don't want to light it, is we saw that the Pyromancer was going down, which gives us a free amount of, it gives us free 25 points, as well as some time to do some fletching, and then 30 points whenever we get him up. This is probably not the most efficient way to do it, as with this, generally speaking, if you're in the middle of one skill or one action, you want to make sure you continue to do that action, as you will do these actions faster if you let them play out. What I mean by that is, if you click on the log and you start to chop the roots, then the time between the first and the second root is going to be faster than if you cut the root, kindled it, chopped, kindled, chopped, kindled. Right here, our Wintertodt is pretty low. It's not going to be damaging us so much. So we can actually run between the Braziers and heal up the Pyromancers, again, to maximize efficiency. This is basically just a way of like getting more points in a short period of time. And I've found that it generally works best if you focus on two Braziers on the same side, whether that's east, south, or west. Again, not north, because of these stepping stones right here. I can almost guarantee that this Pyromancer will go down at least one time while I'm feeding this Brazier. This is going to work well for us because it's going to give us an opportunity to go back, pick the sprouting roots, and make some more potions. You want to make sure that whenever you're doing this, you have at least 10 free inventory spots whenever you run out of your last dose of potion, in order to maximize the amount of time, in order to not drop your roots or your kindling. Because out here, if you drop it, it freezes and crashes as it drops to the ground, meaning that you can't pick it back up and immediately go to the brazier with it. You have to actually go back and recut it, rekindle it. If this pyromancer doesn't take damage, it's not going to be the worst thing in the world. We can see up here that we do have the one to the southeast of us, so it's going to be this brazier right over here. Still needs to be revived. So we're actually going to go ahead and do that now. Pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 herbs. We'll run by this guy. Use the rejuvenation potion on him. Go take 5 concoctions from the concoction crate. And then again, as we're moving, we want to make sure that we use the time to mix the bruma potions. We can actually go ahead and heal this guy if we want to. I think right there the most efficient thing would actually be cutting the roots. One thing I haven't mentioned is that behind an invisible line somewhere around here or here, you will not take damage over time from the Wintertodt. You won't take the random attacks. You can't get targeted by the Snow Flurry, and clearly you're not going to be by the Brazier, so you don't really need to worry about that. The reason that we're not doing that during the game is because you actually cannot, you can't do any actions back here aside from mixing the potions. You can't, and I'll show this right here. You can't cut the roots because the game will say that your hands are too cold to fletch here and you need to move closer to the braziers. We're going to go to this side since our pyromancer over here is wounded. And since we're at 18% energy, I'm actually going to go ahead and light the brazier while we cut. This does require a little bit more focus because the brazier can blow up in that 3x3 attack, and you're going to want to make sure that you get away from that, like that right there. The game is rather forgiving in the time of damage on that, so you have enough time to like bounce back and come back. You can stay near it a little bit longer, but again, this is something that's going to come with time to be comfortable to correctly gauge when you're safe, when you're not, when you need to move, and when you don't. At the entrance over here, the area that we were talking about where we can't fletch or do anything that would be beneficial to the game, there's actually a number of items. The one that we've been interacting with the most is going to be the concoction crate. The other things that you have there is you have an axe crate, a knife crate, a tinderbox crate, and a hammer crate. Basically everything that you're going to need, but the axes that it supplies you are actually going to be bronze axes. I've read somewhere, and I'm not 100% certain where it was, I can't remember off the top of my head, that the steel axe and the rune axe are essentially the exact same as far as Wintertodt is concerned. Outside of Wintertodt, they're going to have extreme differences. Alright, so we actually got that one pretty lucky. He took 2 hits back to back, and he was taking a 3rd hit as he was getting downed. We were able to revive him and make sure that he did take that 3rd hit, and then the brazier blew up, giving him the 4th hit, so he actually got downed twice in a very short period of time, which was a free, fast 60 points for us. Again, takes 2 hits right there. Always nice to see. Whenever you have a downed pyromancer and a broken brazier, you want to prioritize fixing the brazier, healing the pyromancer, and then lighting the brazier in order to maximize your points. One thing important to note, and I guess it seems kind of obvious, but it was always something that I was a little bit sketched out about, is you can stand underneath the pyromancer whenever the snowfall is focusing on him, and it will not hit you as a player. Again, it seems obvious. It's coded that this attack is going to hit the NPC and not the player. But this was always something, especially playing a very low hit points level hardcore, it was always something that kind of drew some concern from me. Due to the fact that it can hit up to 13 damage. But you can stand underneath that pyromancer all day and you will never get hit by that attack. You may get hit by a random damage, but you won't get hit by the one focusing on the NPC. And the random damage will always just be the attack that does 10%. I believe it's going to be 10% of your overall health rounded up. So I want to say if you're, and I have no scientific, I can't, I've not gauged this, I've not tested this, but if you're 10 to 14 hit points, you're always going to take 1 damage, 2 from the brazier, and a max of 3 if you have no warm clothes. If you have 20 hit points, you'll take 2 random damage, 4 from the brazier, and up to 6. And then continue that trend out all the way up to 99 hit points. And essentially with 99 hit points, just use the number 100 for that in order to gauge how much you would take, which at 99, you would take 10 hits, or 10 hit points of damage, 20 on a break, and then up to 30 with no warm clothing. Obviously, this is why coming here at a very, very low level, as I've stated before, is going to be the most beneficial as far as the account goes, because you can survive on much, much cheaper food. If you are at a higher hit points level, it might be worth investing a little bit of prayer points up to, I want to say, level 52. That is wrong. I'm sorry. What am I looking at here? Sorry, 49. You want to get a prayer level of 49 to get redemption. Redemption heals you when your health falls below 10%. And this is something that you'll see a lot of players use if you use the official Wintertodt world. With that being said, if you are going to use the official Wintertodt world, I highly recommend using the RuneLite client and going here, typing in entity hider, and then turning that on. What this is going to do is it's going to block you from being able to see all of the other players in your world. And that helps you focus on the screen a little bit better, because if other players are in the world, even though RuneScape did do its quality of life update to where hit splats on other players appears a different color, a darker color red, whereas your hit splat is going to be a brighter color red. The worlds are usually chock full of players, and it is hard to see who you are, where you are, and what's going on. It's just a very dynamic setting, and I find it to be much, much easier to use Entity Hider and being able to focus only on yourself. Focusing on healing all 4 pyromancers during the game is maybe not the most efficient thing to do, but I have found that it does help at least keep the game a little bit interesting and keep you moving from one brazier to another. Since Wintertodt's at 17% health, I do feel confident lighting it while I do some kindling. We'll back away from that. I was going to try and get one more fletch in, but the timing there just wasn't right. Generally, I tend to try and run between areas while I'm fletching, as long as I have at least 2 routes to go between place to place, and as long as I have run energy. If you're walking, I would actually just recommend staying at the brazier that you're at if you don't have any run energy. At low level, you can technically pass this with no food. Looks like I may actually use my 4th piece of cake, or I can show you guys what I'm talking about. It is technically doable. I'm going to eat the cake. As I said, I was at 4 health right there, and as stated, I have been hit 4 in a very short period of time here, and that's actually how I lost my last hardcore. So definitely always want to make sure that you're paying attention to the brazier as it explodes, like that. The reason that the Wintertodt has not been dying, even though we've had these braziers lit a number of times, is because the Wintertodt, just like a player, does heal over time. If we left this Wintertodt say I needed to get to class or something like that, um, if we actually left this Wintertodt just lagged out of the game or whatever happened, uh, the Wintertodt would actually passively regen all of his health back to 100%. You can see evidence of this whenever you're hopping worlds. If you see four of these symbols right here, essentially, either um, basically anything that has four red hats and a Wintertodt at 100% health is going to be indicative of uh, somebody who got interrupted mid game, whether they died, had to go somewhere, whatever the case may be. That's generally going to explain what that is or why that happened. It is important to note. I prefer the west side of it because if I step back from the brazier here as it blows up and then I click on it, my character prioritizes moving west over moving north. So they will always head towards the oops. My character will always prioritize, like I said, moving west rather than north whenever I'm clicking on the brazier, which on the west side will drag you closer to the pyromancer, and on the east side will actually drag you further away from the pyromancer. Being close to the pyromancer is useful because you can, if you're closer to him, then you don't have to waste the time running to him to get him up if the 3x3 attack is coming down and you want that extra hit on him. You can actually just like click back here and heal him, and then click back, however you prefer to do. I find it personally to be lucky, not lucky like go out and buy a lottery ticket or anything like that, but I personally do prefer games where the braziers are getting broken pretty consistently. This is by far the cheapest construction experience that you will get in the game. It's by no means the fastest, but it is the cheapest. And in the next episode, where I show the 1 to 99 fire making at Wintertodt, at solo Wintertodt, and what kind of levels you can expect out of that, I'll show off the construction level, and we can compare how much the like what construction level I'm at, how much it would cost, and then how much it did cost us, which is going to be not necessarily zero because we did put together a bunch of oak larders in the house, but relatively close to zero and much, much cheaper than it would be had we actually done construction training. You guys can see up here, I have 519,706 experience in fletching. And like I said, whenever we came here to Wintertodt, I believe we had 15 fletching, if I remember correctly. I can go back and review episode 2, and you guys can too if you guys want to know like what actual level we were at whenever we came here, because the experience that you gain here, in all things, I want to say except for agility, is going to be affected by your level in that skill. You'll see right here that whenever we fix the brazier, we're getting 258 or 256 construction experience at the construction level that we are at. If you come here at like level 1 construction, generally whenever you fix the brazier, you're only going to get 4 experience per. Clearly a bit of a difference, and that's why you want to make sure, I say personally around level 30 construction is what you want to be before you start to solo the Wintertodt. Like I said, the levels that I would say are most affected by this are going to be your woodcutting, obviously your fire making, your woodcutting level, your fletching level, and your construction level are going to be the ones that are most impacted or to get the highest multiplier. Whereas your farming and your herb lore get the what I would say is the 2 lowest multiplier, because I don't even know if the agility at the back of the arena or the northern end of the arena actually does have any effect as far as like higher level equals more experience. with that being said, I'll show off in the next episode the overall level, and I want to make it clear that the agility experience that I've gotten is not from here. The agility experience that I've gotten, and that I'll be showing off, that's air quotes, showing off, is from whenever I'm sitting in a class. I have 3-hour lectures, and some days I have 6 hours where I'll just be sitting in class. I fire on the computer, and I'll run in a circle on some agility rooftop courses. I've been doing the Sears agility rooftop course, and I do want to give out a little bit of a guide on that because, well, actually, I guess it's not even, I don't really need to do a guide. I can just talk about it right now. On rooftop courses, it's a lot like Wintertodt. You're going to take damage based on your overall hit points level. I was always scared of this on my original hardcore, and this is one of those things that you learn just kind of being afraid of dying and being at a low hit points level. Is if you look up the wiki, it'll tell you, and for some reason, the Runescape wiki has damage numbers for a lot of the rooftop courses, but it does not have the damage numbers that you can expect at the Sears Village rooftop course. I remember, again, on my first hardcore, I tried to sit there and like watch other people taking damage, and then as soon as I saw somebody take more than 10 damage, I was like, all right, clearly the course hits more than 10, so I'm never going to run this course because I can take a random 12 and instantly lose my account. It wasn't until quite a while later that I actually joined the clan chat, Do You Even Hardcore? Do You Even HC? And I highly recommend it. And that's the good thing about this game is the community is always trying to help each other out. I really don't know how the PvP community is because I'm not an insane person, but the community does try to help each other out. If you guys see other YouTubers, I've personally talked with a couple that, or at least in the comment section on their videos, and they've been able to help out. The clan chat, Do You Even Hardcore, was able to help out with that question because I asked, I was like, hey, what's going on with the numbers at the Sears Village rooftop course? And they were able to tell me that it is safe to do because rooftop courses deal out damage dependent on your overall hit points level. So even though the RuneScape wiki does not show the damage levels for Sears Village rooftop course, I can personally guarantee that if you go there and you're running, you're only ever going to take, if you're at 10 health, you're only ever going to take 3 points of damage per fall. At this point in the game, where I'm a little bit above 11,000 points, I generally tend to keep an eye on the number of points that we have. At 12,000 points, generally speaking, I'm not going to do it this game because this Pyromancer down here has been working to be Employee of the Month, and he has been consistently, here's the 3x3 attack, we're just outside of it, so that's nice. Now, with this, it shows the snow here, 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 not here, 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 and here. The snow not being here, 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 and here, and I'm sorry I said that kind of fast, I was just trying to show it while it was still there. But the area that there was not snow on the ground, you would still take full damage from. This is what I'm talking about right here. This dude has not put out that fire, and I almost have a full inventory. That is why we're not going to keep that thing lit. And generally what I do is I will wait until, once I have 12,000 points, I keep the brazier lit as I fletch. This ensures that we essentially get out of the game as close to 13,500 points as possible. With that being said, in the next episode, whenever I talk about the number of crates that I have, the experience that we have, this is not going to be a set in stone thing. If you do it textbook perfect and you get 13,500 points every game, you can still get varying amounts of fire making experience, construction experience, woodcutting, fletching experience, dependent on how many times the brazier breaks. And Again, I'm not really talking in this too much about the farming experience and the herblore experience that you get here or the agility experience because it's all really, really low. Um, in this whole game, the whole game that we've been playing right now, we're going to get 54 experience for agility because we jumped over the 3 obstacles in the back. Each obstacle gave us 18. 18 by the 3 is 54. Each time we pulled a route, I think it gave us 2 experience. So, again, not something that we're super, super interested in because those numbers are rather negligible. It is important to note that you can actually track your, scrolling down to the bottom, if we go up here, scrolling back up to the top, I want to say my name is 4GVN Nomad. Type that in, click hardcore, I don't know why, and we'll scroll all the way to the bottom. Did we get that in time to light it? No, we did not. All right. The Phoenix right here is going to be the number of times that we've killed the Wintertodt boss. This is actually going to be your entire boss list. Obviously at level 7 or whatever I am, at 10 hit points, I'm not actually going to be taking on stuff like Volcano, Crazy Archaeologist, anything like that. The only one that I'm actually going to be doing is, I just realized this whole thing got skewed pretty far whenever I pulled this up, but is the Wintertodt. If you go to the official Wintertodt Worlds, you will get a higher kill count, and you can progress further up the kill count list if that is something that interests you. And you can head towards the number 1 ranked, Wintertodt kills. So I did say that generally speaking, we can get through a game using only 2 pieces of cake rather than what I've eaten so far, which is 4 pieces. And you can actually get through with less. If you ever do find that you're taking too much damage and you really just need to run away, at 10 hit points, because in RuneScape you gain 1 hit point per minute, you can actually just kind of sit back here and waste time. The thing is, you're not gaining any points while you're doing that, so you're going to extend the duration of your game, and not really in a fun way. At this point, we have 12,800 points. I feel confident in keeping the brazier lit and getting the points for relighting the brazier, fixing the brazier, and healing him. That will probably, in this inventory, will boost us up to the 13,500 that we're looking for. And we won't end the game prematurely, receiving less rewards. This actually has been one of the longer games. If we look down at the bottom left, we can see that it's that our game counter is 47 minutes. And the original recording for this, before we fast forward, is actually going to be a little bit longer than that, just due to the little bit of time that we spent at the beginning of the video in the other person's world talking about the inventory and everything like that. 13,260, and we have 150 points in our inventory. The Wintertodt is at around 15% health, over 10, we'll say. We could technically drop these Broomer Roots and just start running around right now, which would be fine. But I'm just going to go ahead and use what I have, so we'll light that. And now this is phase 3 of the fight, which is going to be finishing off the Wintertodt. This is, if you have an alt or a friend that has nothing to do, you can have them, and generally I would highly recommend doing this with an alt. You can have them come in and help you light the braziers to help finish off the Wintertodt, because, and we've gotten pretty fortunate this game where normally if I'm lighting these braziers and running between them, then it's pretty consistent that they get taken out almost as soon as I run away from them. We've actually been pretty lucky. So I'm actually going to go ahead and jump this gap over here, which is something I normally never do because I have to immediately head back the other way. If you can head in one direction, do that. But if you have to bounce between the two, then that works as well. And this is about to be the end of the game. Alrighty, that's the end of the game. So, normally with this, what you can do and what I like to do is bring in 5 cakes, and with 5 cakes, you can stay in here for several hours at a time and do several games in a row. That being said, it does restrict the amount of logs that you can have in your inventory at any given time. It's just helpful because in between games, you don't need to worry about like running out and banking, because whenever you run out, you have whatever potions are left in your inventory, you actually lose. Coming back to it and then going to our final tab, this is going to be crate number 51 in the bank. If you actually count the numbers up right here, we only have 50. I want to say these are, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8 wide, times 5 right here. Wait, yeah, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 40. That's going to be 7, and then plus 3. So 47 plus 3 is 50. We have 51 kill count. I want to say I opened up the very, very first crate, and I was just kind of hoping that I'd get a random Phoenix pet, and did not. But yeah, that's basically going to be how to solo Wintertodt, how and why you should solo Wintertodt. One thing I did forget to mention at the beginning of the video is that the warm weather clothes, aside from the Clue Hunter's cloak, which you can actually just look up Clue Hunter outfit on the Old School RuneScape wiki, and you can actually look up warm clothing on the Old School RuneScape wiki, and it will have a list of the warm clothing. But this stuff right here, the Santa mask and everything like that, you can get for free from Dango and Drainer. I hope you guys found this to be informational. If you guys do have anything that I missed, if you guys can leave in the comments below. If you guys have any questions, leave those in the comments below and I'll answer them. If I don't have the answer, then I will talk with somebody who hopefully does, or get you in contact with somebody who does. If you do like the content that we have, please subscribe to the channel. You won't miss any of the videos. If you did like the video, please leave a like below. Thank you guys, and I hope you have a good day.